So I will introduce our guest today. It's Bernadette Lindsay from Nipissing Serenity Hospice. And if any of you have not had an opportunity to tour the hospice, you have to make an appointment, right, Bernadette?
Yeah.
And you could do it today if you wanted, or you had one other date and I can't remember what it was. But
yesterday.
Oh, it was
yesterday.
Oh, it was yesterday. Okay. Bernadette, I've just had eye surgery, so I'm off in the different zone.
Okay.
So that's my excuse right now. But I was reading your bio and I sent that out to our 129 members. And Bernadette is very passionate about her work. The magic, she calls it the magic that happens inside Nipissing Serenity Hospice. But her background is really extensive. Now I understand why you're doing what you're doing. She's a fund development coordinator in charge of fundraising. This is at the hospice. Event management, donor relations, communications, and grant writing, among all of the other things she does, and tours and all the rest of it. She's been with the hospice since August 2020. So that came right into COVID, eh, Bernadette?
Absolutely.
Yeah. She's in charge of partnership and product development she was in charge of partnership and product development for Northeastern Ontario Tourism for 5 years. And man, she's been all over the place. She's lived in North Bay since 2008, born in Toronto, lived in the Middle East and Europe, careers in broadcasting, sales, marketing, communications, event management, and hospitality. And I'll bet when they interviewed you, that everybody was just going like this. So congratulations.
I hope so.
To you. You're the right, you're doing a marvelous job at Nipissing Serenity Hospice. So you're on. If you
Thank you.
Want to share, go right ahead.
Thanks so much, Harriet. Good morning, ladies. I'm going to share my screen so that I can put my presentation up. Here we go. I tend to go off script a lot. So if you have any questions, feel free to just jump in, absolutely, at any time. So thank you for the introduction. My title is Fund Development Coordinator. I had somebody yesterday ask me, well, what does that mean? Basically, I try and pull in the money and I'll explain why. But first of all, I'm not too sure if everybody knows what hospice is. Sometimes people think, you know, hospital, and we're like, no, we are a healthcare facility. And we're palliative care. So that essentially means at the very end of life, when you have been diagnosed with a terminal illness and there is no longer a course of action to prolong life, people come here to peacefully pass away with us. Usually that's, if you have a prognosis is usually, you know, 3 months or less to live. And we focus a lot on caring, not just for our residents, but also their caregivers and their family members. And, you know, it's a very peaceful and serene place. And when you come in, it is different from a hospital in that, you know, you don't hear a lot of the bells and whistles and the chiming and the noise that's associated with a lot of machines and such. So it is very peaceful. We're located on John Street, close to Chippewa Creek. So you can open the windows in each room and it faces the creek. So it is nice and peaceful and you hear the trickling of the water, and we often see a lot of wildlife in the back. And all of our resident rooms are the care wing. So it's all a nice long building. So all of the 10 beds that we have, the 10 rooms, all face the creek. And as you can see from the sun streaming in, we get beautiful afternoon sun and sunsets. We opened in January 2020. As Harriet said, I did start, our executive director currently, he started in May, I started in August. Ironically, when we opened the doors and started to welcome residents within a week or two. And but then COVID hit, and which threw a curveball into everything. And it was very difficult for us to get any programming up and running, but we did manage to, I've written a lot of grants so that we can get our programs up and running for especially grief, bereavement, and wellness. We have welcomed 285 families. That essentially means, sorry, residents. That essentially means that on top of that, we help their caregivers and their family members. So we kind of have a bit of a formula. For every one resident we have, we also help another 4 people total. So it's a kind of a package deal. It's essentially, 5 people every time. So for 285 residents, it's a lot more people that we help every time. Excuse me, somebody comes in. We also serve everybody from Nipissing and East Parry Sound districts. So that's a population of roughly 130,000 people. Now we do receive provincial funding, but that equates to direct clinical costs that are covered. So nursing, so RNs, RPNs, and PSWs wages are covered. But that still leaves us with a huge gap of close to $800,000 a year. And that's why I have a job. I do, like I said, lots of grant writing, but also we put on fundraising events and try and get our name out into the community more and more by doing that. Dame Cicely Saunders is the very first sort of person who kind of spearheaded what hospice is in England. And the concept is the same here as it is in the UK. You matter because of who you are to the last moment of your life, and we'll do all we can, not only to help you die peacefully, but also live until you die. That to us means that we do a lot of celebrations, Christmas in July, birthdays, anniversaries, graduation ceremonies, you name it. We try and have a lot of fun here and celebrate right to the last moment. Palliative care is very much about pain management. It's making sure that people are comfortable, they're happy, they are not in pain, so that a lot of them can, have the last wonderful moments with their family members and their caregivers. We tend to do lots of legacy projects when we can, scrapbooking, you can see people are holding hands. Sometimes we do hand casting out of plaster for people. So there's a lot of things that we focus on doing so that there's a real connection with family and caregivers right to the end. We do, as I said, we offer services to family and the community as well. Grief and bereavement supports, which actually we have group sessions that we hold at Canadore up at the village once a month. So anybody is welcome within the community or anybody that we serve to attend those, and they're facilitated by Canadian Shield. So they are grief therapists, incredible people. When people come in, we provide meals should they want them. We also have a room that, pardon me, is a kind of like, it's a little bit set up like a hotel room should people want to stay. We have a pull-out bed and an ensuite bathroom. If anyone needs to stay there, we have that as well. Complementary therapies that we've started to do over the last couple of years, things like pet therapy. We have wonderful people in the community who come in and volunteer their services. They bring in their pets, or they come in and play music every week. Foot care. We have spa services. We have a nice spa that comes in and they'll do, complimentary pedicures or manicures. So they donate all their services and their time. It's fantastic. That's how we're able to, do very special sort of events. Some photos there, some of our incredible volunteers playing music, putting on art workshops, and our staff. Sometimes we have, if you can see in the bottom there, the pipers. We had somebody of Scottish descent, and he was like, "Wow, I would love to hear some music one more time." So somebody picked up picked up the phone and asked them to come and play. And then we propped the door open so that the music could float right into the hospice. And it was wonderful. And then they also did a march all the way around the building so that everybody could hear them. We focus on individualized care and connection. So as I said, we host special events if somebody's, birthday is coming up or anniversary or Christmas in July. That was a fun one. As you can see, I don't know if you can tell, but they're on the cart there. There's little things made for the Christmas in July thing. And it was hot chocolate with a fun drink umbrella in it, things like that. So we try and we have a lot of fun here. People often think that the hospice is kind of a morbid place to be, but it's certainly not. If you're in this building, you hear a lot of chatter and laughter. We try and keep it nice and light and fun. Again, complimentary services, we have a lot of ladies that love to have their nails done. So, that's what they would like. That's what we help facilitate for them. Again, it's, all about family. So sometimes people come in and they bring their kids. We do have a children's playroom for them as well. Our volunteers are mighty and strong. We have volunteers for everything. People come in and work in the kitchen every day to provide lots of baked goods. People sit at the front desk on the weekends, at the admin desk there to welcome people. We have visiting volunteers who sit bedside. We also have grief trained volunteers who can also assist with families. Gardening and landscaping, and of course committees for fundraising, decor and other special events. We have about 78 people currently who sit in our volunteer roster. Wonderful.
I like that apron on Brenda. Hot stuff coming
Hot
through.
stuff coming through. Yeah, again, we have lots of people like that who are just, Brenda's got a great sense of humor. Again, we have a lot of fun. It's kind of crazy sometimes. Our annual signature event is called the Hike for Hospice, and it used to run in May, but during COVID, we moved it to October to take advantage of the beautiful weather around Thanksgiving long weekend. And we've kept it like that because it works. It works really well. This year, we're going to do a hybrid event. So we'll actually do a hike and a barbecue at the hospice itself right before the long weekend. And then people can still fundraise and do walks in their own communities all throughout the long weekend. And people do, because we often have a lot of families who don't live locally, but they want to give back to us. So they'll raise money for us. Last year, we raised $72,000. This year, our goal is 75. We're going to smash it. I know it. We've also been very, very lucky to work with our local Tim Hortons stores and do the Smile Cookie campaign. Again, raising a lot of money, and it's been fantastic for us. This year, it used to be in September. This year, they've moved it to May. So it's May 1st to May 7th. Again, we recruit a lot of volunteers to come in and help us. Now you can see all the boxes back there. So they pack things up, they deliver for us. It's such an incredible campaign. And again, it has a lot of community spirit. This year I'm working a lot with Rogers Radio, and we'll be delivering cookies all together. So that'll be a lot of fun too. So you hear us on the radio a lot.
Bernadette, is that a national campaign?
It is.
It is.
It is. Yeah. And the stores locally get to choose which charity they work with. And it's usually a 3-year contract. But we got lucky because they moved it from September to May. There wasn't that much time to get another charity sort of on board and trained really to this is a bit of a what should I say? It's a bit of a system, if you will. We start selling orders, like pre-selling next week even. And so it goes on, it's almost a whole month-long campaign for us. Last year, we pre-sold 1,078 dozen cookies.
Wow.
So that's 12,000 cookies passed through the hospice doors here. And then we packaged them all up and delivered and or had people pick them up here. So if we do the same this year, that would just be absolutely fantastic. So it's a big campaign for sure. We've been holding a 50-50 lottery for 2 years, and actually this month is our final lottery. Tickets can be purchased at nsh5050.ca, and the draw is on the 19th of April. We had raised, we were at $185,000 probably about a month or two ago, so we've raised a little bit more than that. It's been great. But you know what, the competition is quite fierce. Everybody's got a 50-50 going on right now.
Yeah, that's true.
Bernadette, did you say this is the last one? And is it a monthly lottery?
It is a monthly lottery, and it is the very last one, yes.
And why would that be?
You know what, unfortunately, competition is fierce, and you know, we're not making as much money as we had hoped for. And it's a little bit tough because for a small charity like us, our staff can't play. Whereas if something like at the hospital, they have a foundation, so that means that it's separate and the staff can play. So for us, our board members can't play, our staff can't play. So we have to rely on people within the community to play. So we haven't found that the return has been as high as we'd like. It also does take a lot of time and energy for me, you know, to do the reports with the government and you know, man the website, things like that, and do all the promotion. So
that's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that, but I certainly can understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's, you know, when we did research, I know a lot of other hospitals all throughout the north, you know, they have a team of people as well, you know, who can essentially do this, right? So in their marketing department, they have quite a few people. And whereas I'm a team of one, I do have an intern and our admin assistant, Olivia, helps me a lot, but yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it's been fantastic. So, I mean, like we're, you know, if we raise close to 190,000 or $200,000, like that's fantastic, right? So, but it's run its course. So we'll move on and figure out something else next. Something else that we kind of launched was Serenity Gardens campaign. And again, by getting some really great grant money and having some fantastic partners within the community, like Canadore College, who's planted an orchard on our property. Then we were able to have the pathway in the back of the property was also a donation, and it was paved. So over the years, we've been able to sort of build some really nice garden beds, if you will, and that's still an ongoing project. I'll be incorporating some memorial items as well into this. So we already have some people who want to purchase, you know, benches or trees, things like that. So slowly over time, we'll end up growing all that. But as you can imagine, during COVID, we didn't really have any of those outdoor spaces. So, which was sad because that's where people should have been outside. So it's taken us a couple of years to kind of build up these things.
Who's maintaining the gardens for you, Bernadette?
Well, it had been the Horticultural Society, and then we just have our own sort of team of volunteers in the, you know, community who come in and help out as well. So, and sometimes people call and say things like, "Oh, I'm splitting my flowers, you know, can I come in and, you know, donate some stuff to you?" Sure, we have a maintenance coordinator, and he can decide where things are going to go. And as I said, we're slowly starting to, you know, build more garden beds and such. But the one on the bottom left-hand corner, that's beside the building, and that was empty the first year, if not two. And then the Horticultural Society came in and planted that and have been maintaining it for us as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
We're going into Communities in Bloom, and we'll have the judges here touring. July 25th is probably the time when we'll probably do a walk by that garden and maybe meet some of the staff.
nice,
I'll talk to you about it.
for sure. That's great. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the one right in the middle of the page there, excuse me, by our sign on the corner of John Street there, that was sort of the first garden bed that we said, gee, it was our sign, and then it was nothing but, a big mound of dirt. So that's how we kind of spearheaded the campaign. And honestly, within about 3 weeks, that was built completely by donations. People would just phone, and then, a lot of the garden centers said, sure, I'll help you out with different things. Even the bench was donated, all the stone, everything. So it beautified, because that's what people see when they first drive up.
Mhm.
And that was done in a couple of weeks. So that was just, we were
Was
like
somebody
overwhelmed.
Was somebody designing that for you, or was
John Pekarski.
John? Okay, yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah, he designed a lot of the spaces there. Again, we also have a lot of fundraisers that we're able to do out of our kitchen, because it is a commercial kitchen, which is a little bit unique to hospice. A lot of them will have a kitchen and say, people can come in and use the space, but we actually have a commercial kitchen. And during COVID, that helped us a lot, so that we can do different campaigns, pasta sauce, Valentine's Day cookies. We just did butter tarts a few weeks ago, so we continue to use our kitchen that way. And then this year we also launched a cooking club, where we have a class that our kitchen coordinator puts on. He's also a Red Seal chef, and we put on the cooking classes once every other month. And then he gives them the recipe and demonstrates everything. And it's a nice small group, so that people are able to jump in and actually get hands-on as well.
You should send me that information when you're doing those things, and I can send
I
it
will.
out to the membership.
I will, for sure. As I said, we started our Serenity Through Support group up at the village at Canadore, and it runs every other month. So we just had one, or sorry, every month, the first Tuesday of the month. So we just had it this week. And if anyone ever wants to go, it's open to anyone, the general public. I also created a fundraising toolkit, just to sort of plant the seed in people's minds. We have a lot of great partners within the community. I just actually was at Cobb's Bread on the weekend, and they did a dough raiser for us. Super cute.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, they raised money for us all month long, and then on Saturday they donated $2 for every package of hot cross buns to us as well. I'm just waiting on the total for that, but it should be close to $7,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. And then last week we also had Freshco do a collection at the till, and that was another $1,300 that they raised for us too. So the toolkit kind of, plants the seed and helps people walk through the process of, if you're thinking about doing a fundraiser, these are some of the things that we would be responsible for helping to promote it. And then sometimes if I'm available, I go and, stand in the store and talk to people, and it gives me an opportunity to hand out information or ask if anyone wants to be a volunteer, things like that. So it's great opportunities for us to be out in the public. It also shows people where the money goes when they're fundraising, so that they can also talk about that, how much everything costs. Ironically, when I've put this toolkit together almost 2 years ago now, a lot of these costs were far less than they are now. Again, COVID prices are pretty crazy. The cost of medical supplies, gloves, masks, all that stuff is more. And even the meals for the residents, because grocery prices are much higher than they used to be. So this is what we use a lot of the money for. And again, we don't turn people away as long as you have an OHIP card and you live in Nipissing or East Parry Sound districts. Mind you, we have had a few instances where people live outside the districts, but their families would be here. So we bring them here so that they can be close to their loved ones. But we provide anything. If they need toiletries, all the linens, you know, when they walk in, if they need to have different medications that they can't afford or whatever, then we pay those. So that's what we need our fundraising money for. And that's it. So thank you so much for the opportunity to let me tell you a little bit more. I do have one lady from your group today who's coming in for a tour. If anybody else wants to join us at around 11 o'clock. I made some room. I have a busy afternoon, but I made some room in my schedule so I can be here until around noon. If anyone wants to join us, and if not, just give me a call or send me an email, and yeah, I can just do a one-on-one.
Okay, do they need to call you? They can do it after this session, or Dorothy?
Oh,
has
sure.
a question here. Go ahead, Dorothy.
Anytime.
You unmute, please.
Sorry.
That's okay.
You mentioned pain management, and it made me think of MAID, medical assistant in dying. And I wondered where the hospice stood on that.
Yep, we will facilitate whatever our resident and their family members want. If they do want MAID, though, we do not do the procedure in our hospice. We would facilitate conversations. We'd have the team come in from the hospital, give them all the paperwork, but then they would have to leave the hospice to go to the hospital for that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, it's never this does come up a lot, and ironically, it's never been an issue here. We have had, I think, only 2 people leave to go to the hospital for MAID. The conversation is usually had before people even come in, so that they understand, like, we don't do that procedure in our building. But for sure, whenever anyone expresses an interest in it, then we facilitate that for them so that the process is started, because it's a bit of a process. It's just not a quick turnaround where somebody can have it immediately.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Questions? Go ahead, Debbie.
Thank you. You mentioned that, you know, approximately you accept guests or patients, I'm not sure what you call them, approximately 3 months prior to end of life. Did I understand that correctly? Or like, what happens if they live a little longer than 3 months?
Yeah. So it's very much, you know, when we accept people, there are a couple different things that have to be measured. One of them obviously is, you know, where are they on a scale medically, right? So sometimes, yes, that does happen where people do come in and, you know, essentially, yeah, they get very personalized care. Their pain is managed very well. They're eating healthy meals, and they have very direct one-on-one care and interaction with people. And sometimes it's almost like they rebound, right? So absolutely, people have been here longer than 3 months, for sure. In fact, we even had a resident, I think it was our first year that we were open, and he was doing so well that we had to send him back to long-term care. Not that we're miracle workers, but he was doing quite well. So you just never know. I mean, doctors never even always know for sure. It's not an exact.
That makes perfect sense. That's for sure. And it's impossible to predict with any real accuracy. Because I'm wondering what you must have a wait list. How do you determine who 10 beds, I'm sure, are continually full?
Yes and no. We try and leave one open for just like that sort of, you know, community emergency, if you will, to try and make sure that we can facilitate everybody. And so what happens is the medical team deals with what used to be called the LIN, it's now community care. And so the process is literally when a resident wants to come in or their family wants to talk about coming in, it has to be referral from the family doctor to community care and then directly to us. So there is kind of like a middleman who kind of does an assessment, and then our medical team, including a couple doctors, will do those assessments and, you know, determine if the person is a good candidate.
Bonnie, go ahead.
I was surprised to say, hear you talk about nursing homes. My understanding was that you don't take people from nursing homes for end of life. Was I mistaken on that?
Yeah, we do take people from nursing homes, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Good
Yeah,
to know.
it would depend because they wouldn't get the same care in a nursing home as they would here. It depends on, again, their prognosis and what the issues might be. Yeah, we have had people come from, yes, in the community from nursing homes.
Ellen, do you have a question?
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I was unmuted. No, I'm just listening because my dad is in a residence, but he really needs more care, and he's pretty, I don't know how to describe it, frail now. So I'm interested just in hearing about, you know, what is involved in the hospice. So I don't really, I'll have to think about a question later. Thanks for asking though.
Yeah, yeah. If you have access to his doctor, I would bring it up. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Bring it up with the
Yvonne.
doctor and see what they say.
Okay, yeah, he has congestive heart failure, so he's in that kind of a space that you know, he's getting weaker basically. So yeah, I'll bring it up with my siblings because we're collectively deciding on what might be a best option for him.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. And that's the key right there, is that we are just another option. We're not for everybody. If you would prefer to pass at home or even in the hospital because of, you know, depending on where you are medically, then yeah, but we are an alternative. We're another choice for people. So.
Okay, Yvonne, go ahead, please, with your question.
Okay, Bernadette, thank you for this presentation. I find this so interesting. I just wanted to ask, you had mentioned in an earlier slide that there's about an $800,000 gap in funding between what the government provides and what you have to raise independently. Have you met that goal every year, and what would happen if there was a shortfall?
It does happen that there's a shortfall. It's funny that you mentioned that, because this year alone, Hospice Palliative Care Ontario just released an interesting report earlier this year about how many hospices are in a deficit this year. And it's it's a very large amount of hospices that are running a very big deficit for sure. It's really hard to say because as much as, you know, our fundraising and our dollars have gone up in the last couple of years, especially because people know who we are now and our fundraising has done well, but also the costs. So the scale really, you know, kind of just sort of stays the same. It's not tipping either way. So it's hard to say if we've been able to match that, because our costs have gone up, especially for you know, nursing and such. If we have a turnover, we have people leaving nursing, and then we have, you know, things like overtime costs, and then all the costs for our supplies and everything else has also gone up. So it yeah, there are times where we have had to run a deficit, and then other times we're doing okay, very well. From month to month, that can change very drastically also, depending on how many residents we have coming in. If there's a high turnover, you know, the costs again go up that way. So it's almost a month to month, Yvonne, if I can answer it that way. It's a challenge, right? Being a charity, and then with so many moving parts. So I think
Thank you. I just have a second question as well. My background is with a hospital in North Bay, and I'm just wondering if you've experienced recruitment issues for your clinical staff.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's not just recruitment, but retaining them too, because as I said, a lot of people are leaving the industry or moving, lateral movements, right? We, palliative care is also a little bit unique, and you would probably know this. It's weird because we have a great relationship with Canadore, with the village, and a lot of the social work students and nursing students are a little bit baffled because there seems to be a bit of a gap in terms of their education, and they don't get a lot of training in palliative care. So we're having an issue with, we want to hire people with experience, but that's difficult. If they don't have the working experience, they're not getting a lot of the experience in school. So we're actually working with them to try, and especially now that the village will be building their long-term care beds, we're trying to work directly with them to ensure that, you know, we have more space here for placements for students who show an interest in palliative care, so that they get better training.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Yvonne, for your questions. Bernadette, do you encourage legacy planning?
Mhm.
You know, I'm just wondering, can you just maybe elaborate on that a little bit?
Again, these are direct conversations that our staff would have with families. You know, that's kind of a lot of times those conversations have already been had before people even come here, hopefully. But whenever somebody expresses an interest or a need for, you know, oh, I need to talk to a financial planner or the nursing home, or sorry, the you know, and anybody in the community who would give them more information on, you know, funeral planning and all that other stuff, then we facilitate those conversations for them.
Okay, because I know the hospital foundation encourages that and says that even 1% is better than nothing for, you know, and that's not because somebody's going to the hospital. I think it's just it's a gifting. And that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. And again,
Not
it's a little bit
necessarily someone who is at the hospice. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah. Again, it's a little bit of a challenging conversation sometimes to have. And then I'm also trying to work with more like financial planners and lawyers and stuff even, and try and get out into the community a little bit more and say to people, these are conversations we need to have, right? We need to have conversations, more open conversations, not just about death, but about, planning. Where's your money going to go? You know, what kind of funeral do you want? All these things, right? And we're going to plan a speaker series. Harriet, we had it booked for May, but we have a new volunteer and support coordinator starting next week. So that person will kind of pick up the ball where I was doing it, and then I need to focus on fundraising more. So that person will kind of pick up where I left off, and I think we're going to plan it for June.
Can you just talk for a little bit about some of the events that you offer there? There's, you know, like you mentioned about cooking classes, other things that you're doing? Yeah.
We earlier this year we had an event at Beef and Brand, and it was called Escape to the Tropics. So that was a nice sort of you know, tropical themed dinner. We did a silent auction and stuff like that, and that was the first time we had done it with Beef and Brand, and it went over very well. The coming up next will be the Smile Cookie in May. And then stay tuned in September, we're going to be doing a drive-in movie. And then in October, we have our hike for hospice. So I have a few big events this year. And again, a lot of it is more community focused to get our name and our faces out there so that people understand a little bit more about not just reason why we need to raise money, but who we are and what services we have. So.
And can people find that information?
Predominantly our Facebook page is where you can follow all of our stuff. We also do Instagram as well. And then we're working on potentially, well, the plan is to redo our entire website this year as well. But mostly Facebook is where we post everything.
Great.
So
Any
follow
other
us.
Any other questions? How many volunteers do you have? I'm curious.
About 78.
Wow. And they're
Yeah.
your regulars kind of thing, or?
Yeah. Some people have regular schedules, especially when it comes to the kitchen. Regular people will come in, to help out to do different things. But then also it's really nice because if our kitchen coordinator wants to take a couple of days off, we have to rely on those volunteers to come in and handle all the meals, making sure all the baking is done, and helping the staff sometimes to serve even. So it's we're a very small team, in terms of staffing. On the nursing side, it's a little bit, we have I guess between full-time and part-time about 30. But on our admin side, we've got our admin assistant, our executive director, our volunteer and support coordinator, and me.
Yeah.
Sorry,
It's
and then our maintenance
a lean
guy.
machine, you might say, eh?
Yeah.
Yes, I get that impression.
Mhm.
You rely on volunteers a lot, and that's
Absolutely.
that's wonderful.
Yep.
What does
Yep.
someone do if they want to volunteer?
They can contact me, but on our website, Nipissing Serenity Hospice.ca, there is an application form that will come right to the new volunteer and support coordinator. And then we call people in, have the conversation, bit of kind of like an interview, just to sort of see like, where are your interests? How often do you think you could help? And that kind of thing. So
Wonderful.
yeah, you can find out on our website.
Okay. I would also like to add that the orchard that was planted was it was donated by Canadore, as you mentioned, and the whole project for orchards was initiated by Clean Green Beautiful. And we're
was.
doing 2 more orchards this year.
That's awesome.
Pretty excited.
That's very good. Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
other questions?
In fact, Harriet, one of the spaces where John had planted quite a few of the trees, and then we put some nice flowering bushes and such around them. This year, I have about a third of the money that I need, but we're gonna do a large trellis and a big screened-in gazebo right around all those trees and everything. So as they bloom, people are gonna see them and smell them when they're in the gazebo.
Well, you know what? We'll have to do a walk by, or a walk by instead of a drive by, a walk by, and see those in bloom and what we have to look forward to.
Good.
So that's
Anytime.
wonderful. So, well, thank you very much, Bernadette. And if anybody wants to tour, you have to call the hospice, correct?
Yes.
First. So if you're going to go today at 11 o'clock.
Yep.
All right. Please call beforehand. What's the number?
Yep, it's 705-995-3377.
It's beautiful too. And when it first opened, it was not what's the right word? It wasn't it didn't have the feel of home yet, but now it feels like home. It feels like home. It's very beautiful.
For sure. For
So
sure.
congratulations to your whole team.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And just going to stop recording.